Hi, hello. This is Joe. This is my 29th day of my last semester as a college professor, and I just wanted to say what happened in class today. Today was an ESL 5A day, and it's the last day that I'll be teaching them for the next 2 weeks because after today, on Wednesday, we have a Cesar Chavez holiday, and then we're off on spring break for the following week. So it was a day filled with information that the students needed to have. And it was also a day where I wanted to launch them off on their spring break, knowing that they had work to do and that they could do it and should do it. And, so it feels good, like I washed my hands of it at some point. But I came in with a lot of confidence because on those last days, people are revved up to get out and they, they attend and they try to do their best so that they can impress their teacher. And certainly that's what happened this morning. Though not everyone was in class. I don't know exactly who was missing, but they never turned out to be 18. But we went through some grammar. Oh, actually, the first 15 or 20 minutes we talked about their Italian project. It's more of an albatross around my neck than something I'd like to do. But when you're dealing with an Italian teacher, and I wanted to make sure that I included her, then I came up with this cockamamie, Italian project, and the students are a little bit like overwhelmed by it or don't really understand it. I can't do much about that right now. Anyway, so I went through and I realized when I was preparing for class this morning, an hour or so in advance, that I had to write some kind of like assignment where they had to give me a progress report about where they are. And the reason for that is because many years watching other teachers, because I was a teacher evaluator for many years, um, when they did research papers, how the students would give a progress report, but they were typically so lame, and half the students didn't even do it, and the teachers just they were hamstrung by it because while they tried to help every student get prepared for their essay paper, their research paper, it was sort of like a useless exercise because those who were prepared were okay, and those who weren't were just legion, and they didn't really get help by the hour or so that the teacher spent telling them what to do. So, I was kind of like thinking, okay, this is a self progress report that I'm going to grade, which actually gives me an advantage because whenever I say grades, they run, they want to do it and they know they have to do it. And then the other thing is that I went through a mock progress report of my own. And I think they really got it because I did it simply, but I did it clearly, and they saw how I answered the questions. And then they are, once I give them a model, then they're usually pretty good at that. The next thing is that after we did that, and I answered all the questions, which were basically half of them didn't know what they were doing. So, but maybe they'll get it together in the next week. And then I told them about my English lab, and the best students are very happy to do more of my English lab assignments, and that's been a boon for me because then I know they're studying and I know they're working hard, and that's good. Then we did some grammar, and I like doing grammar with this class because we move along quickly. They learn something or they don't learn something, but at least they practice. Everybody gets a chance to speak, and it's kind of like formalized in that way. And I'll call on people, and if they don't respond, I just move past them quickly. So that's always kind of like a nice part of the class, and I like this drill and kill kind of thing. It's not killing, it's drilling, and drilling is usually good, just like in piano practice. Then after the break, we got into like thesis statements, and this is really valuable for students. And I'm really glad that we looked at this essay about accidental inventions, and it talks about three. And it's so good because you can remember every word of it. Basically, the three inventions that were discovered accidentally that they mentioned were popsicles, microwave ovens, and penicillin. So each paragraph, so it's got a really good introduction, and then it has like really these very clear one, two, three, how these accidents happen. and then the results, and then the conclusion is really good. But the conclusion brings in another thing about the fact that when failures are not failures, they can lead to new discoveries, and that's a really nice message. And I want to make sure students get that message because I'm always telling them, failures are not failures. You're a future A student if you're an F student. So anyway, so that went well. And then, we got to the end. We talked about the war between the classes, and that's really, we're getting into the more exciting part of it where the game is beginning to be played and where the students become more interested in the relationship between Adam and Amy and also what happens in the game. So there's like a double theme going on there, which is always good to have. You have like kind of one idea, you have an A role and a B role, and it's nice to have that. And they kind of got into it. It's a little tricky for them because I think they're getting it, but who knows? So what I always do though, and I've learned this from long practice, is you have to kind of keep asking the questions and keep making sure they understand it and keep making sure they know who the characters are and keep making sure they know what the conflicts are and what's at stake in the writing. And they're curious because they asked me, "Is this real?" And I said, "Yeah, well, it's real, but it's fake," and it is. Anyway, I won't go into that, but it's called The War Between the Classes if you're interested. And then when that was finished, a couple of students, one student, Layla, who was from Iran, challenged me on her grade because she had written about discrimination in the United States, but she talked about the history of it, and it was kind of I didn't. She asked me what was wrong with my paper, and I said, "Well, I think it was about the history, and I don't think you really understood it." And then she tried to make it clear about her country, Iran, which had religious discrimination. So basically, after talking with her, going through her paper for about 10 or 15 minutes, I think she got the idea that she has to have a topic sentence that says, the United States has a history of racial discrimination, and my country has a religious discrimination, and my country has less freedom. Something that said that clearly, and then she could talk about each part. And that's the important thing. And whether or not she got it, I wasn't going to rewrite her paper in front of her. I just didn't have time. And then the other student, Ping, called, and we talked about her paper, which was a lengthy paper about her being a rebel and about her forms of rebellion in China and then coming to the United States. And it was good, it was complex and interesting, lots of errors. And so we went through the paper carefully, and then I said, send a copy to me and I'll make every change that you need. But you have to promise me that you'll rewrite the paper. And she promised that she would, and I know she will. And then she, thanked me. And it's good because she's the toughest student in the sense that her standards for me are really high. And when students are like that, I don't want to weenie out on them. I could just say, hey, you have to do it on your own. But the reality is that helping her, makes me feel like I'm doing my job. So it's been, it's exhausting and it's been a long time, but what can I say? I'm enjoying it. Day 29, I'm 32 minutes from the other thing is by mistake, I thought I was calling Ping Lao, but I called Peng Lin, who was one of the workers at LA City College who retired 8 years ago. I didn't realize it was so long ago. And we had a really nice conversation about 10 minutes. And I picked his brain about, health insurance because, I'm leaving after this June. And he gave me some good information. So I was happy with that. Okay. Thank you very much.